Well, hey there. Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for this end of the week installment of Open Mic, the show where the mic is open. The floor is yours. What are the things that you guys want to discuss? What opinions would you like to air? That is what we are here to discuss here today. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it's awesome to have you guys joining me here this afternoon as we end off the week. I hope you guys had a strong week. I hope you got an even better weekend planned ahead for yourselves. Me and Ann got big plans tonight. Big plans. Because we are both socially introverted people. Ann is more extrovert than I am. I'm a very socially introvert person. But our big Friday plans, you ready to hear about the big Friday night plans of the Hollywood styling and profiling, jet-setting John Campea? I'll tell you what my big Friday night plans are, ladies and gentlemen. Ann and I are going to both get home from work. And then we are going to fire up our Nintendo Switch. And we are going to start the download of Super Mario Wonder and Super Mario RPG, the new updated one that just got released. We're going to run out and have some dinner as the Nintendo Switch is downloading both of those. And we're going to come back, get some Doritos, some diet soda. And we're going to stretch out on our big couch. And we're going to play video games all night. That's my big Friday night plan. How can you even keep up? It's a wonder that man isn't on cocaine. He's so crazy. I'm wild, ladies and gentlemen. I'm wild. Good to have all you guys here. Joining me here for this evening as we talk about some stuff. And you know, we're going to get to all your questions. By the way, there's two different ways you can send in questions for Open Mic. For those of you who don't know, the first and usually primary way is if you're watching this show, as most people do, in the other 23 hours of the day when we're not actually streaming live, simply use our tip link. It's at streamelements.com/John Campea/tip. You can send in a question that way, and we'll get around to it the next time we do Open Mic, probably on Monday. Or if you are watching live, you can use the super chat feature there in the live chat. Fire in a question there. And as long as your questions or comments are appropriate to be used on their show, we reserve the right to not read them. But we thank you for sending them in anyway. They will be addressed here on the show. All right. Now, before we get to those questions, you know, one of our beloved YouTube channel members, Oliver, by the way, if you're not a YouTube channel member, become a YouTube channel member. You get ad-free versions of the John Campea Show just for you. If you're a director or producer level or higher, you get to send in questions to be read on the show every single day without having to use the super chat feature. We don't get around to all of them, but we get through as many as we can. And big thank you to all you guys who are already channel members. But one of our channel members messaged me yesterday and said, you know, basically, John, you've talked a lot over the years at different points about who's in the better position to succeed right now, DC or Marvel, right? And as you've gone through the years, both have kind of had, you know, changes to their circumstances. And they said, you know, now that we've got the new DC, we got Aquaman getting ready to wrap up the DCEU. We're getting ready to launch the new DC universe, all that kind of stuff. And Marvel having the issues going on with Marvel that we've had the last number of years. Who would you say is in the better position to succeed right now? Who's got the brighter future is how they worded it. And I like that wording. Who's got the brighter future right now, Marvel or DC? And I think it's important that we note that that's the question we're going to ask. Who has the brighter future, not who's in a better spot right now? Because who's in their better spot right now today, the MCU or the DCEU? Well, that's a no-duh question. Obviously, Marvel. The DCEU has not had a single film crack the $400 million mark in over 5 years, since Aquaman in 2018, right? Or right about 5 years. The DCU, and they've had like 7 or 8 films, something like that, come out in that time period. Not a single one has made $400 million or higher. Whereas Marvel hasn't put one out that has made less than $400 million, I don't believe. Maybe one of them has, but I mean, for the most part, all of them get over that. So who's in the better position right now? Well, obviously Marvel. Like, if the finish line was today, Marvel is crossing the finish line first and crossing it by a substantial amount. Now, as somebody in the live chat, Matthew Siller is writing, well, Joker 2. Well, Joker 2 is not a DCEU movie, right? Joker 2 is a DC production. It's about a DC character, but it's not DCEU. It's not in that same universe as all that other stuff. So you can't really count or look forward to that. So who's in the better position, though, going forward? Who's got the brighter looking future? Now, there's a couple of things I think we need to consider, and I'm going to be interested to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. But as you look to the future, for Marvel on their positive side, they still have the man, like the man, Kevin Feige. They've got the man, Kevin Feige. And if it wasn't for the fact that Bob Chapek had come in and for 3 years stripped away Kevin Feige's authority and started making all sorts of wild and stupid decisions that neutered Kevin Feige and his ability to run his successful cinematic universe, I think we'd be seeing the MCU in a different spot than right now. But now that Bob Iger's back, Bob Iger has reinstated all the authority back into Kevin Feige. You got Kevin Feige. And as long as you got Kevin Feige, you got an advantage because he's the man. All due respect to James Gunn, who I think is going to do great, not good, great running the DC cinematic universe. You can be as good as you want. There's only one Kevin Feige. So that's definitely an advantage that they have. Another advantage that Marvel has is they have a long track record of success, right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe is, without exaggeration or hyperbole, there's your word of the day, ladies and gentlemen. Write that one down. Without hyperbole at all, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the single most successful film franchise in the history of Hollywood, period, end sentence, no other commentary needed. It just is. It just is. With beloved characters and beloved stories and beloved movies, more success than anybody's been able to have in this business. You might say good Canadian kid James Cameron, but James Cameron's only got he's only got a small number of films, all wildly successful, but Kevin Feige just boom, man, 20 plus, getting close to 30 films. Track record of success. Michael Gonzalez said they also have far more movies than other franchises. Oh, absolutely they do. But even if you break it down on a per movie basis, their film series average $1 billion a film. Wrap your head around that. Their film franchise averages $1 billion a film. Some have made close to $3 billion. Some made closer to $500 million. But if you average it out, the Marvel Cinematic Universe films, so whether you have 5 films or 55 films, when your film franchise averages $1 billion a film, that's pretty good. I think we would agree that's pretty good. All right. Well, what about though DC? And I'm going to skip to the end here and give the ending away. DC has, I believe right now, has the brighter future. Well, John, what about all those advantages you just said that Marvel has? Yeah, those are advantages that Marvel has. But DC right now kind of has the ultimate advantage. And that ultimate advantage is they get to start with a clean slate, right? Like once they get Aquaman and the fish fry fantasy fetish, whatever the name, I can't even remember what the subtitle for Aquaman 2 is. I'm looking forward to Aquaman 2, by the way. Don't misinterpret me. I'm excited to see Aquaman 2. I can't even remember the name, the something. DC is getting to start with a clean slate, right? They get to start with a fresh page. Yeah, they're going to carry over like Peacemaker and some characters that are kind of connected with it. But I've always said that when you watch Peacemaker, you realize if you retcon one scene out of Peacemaker, that's that final little Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller joke that comes at the end. You retcon that one scene, Peacemaker isn't even in the DCEU. Yeah, they reference Batman and they reference Flash, but that could be a Batman or a Flash in any universe whatsoever. You retcon that one little scene, that one 30-second scene at the end, Peacemaker can be in any universe. So it doesn't really matter and it doesn't really count. So when you get to start with a fresh page, without any baggage, without anything handcuffing you, without any previous story that you have to stay consistent with When you have a fresh page, your possibilities are limitless. Your possibilities are limitless. By the way, I want to defend myself here. I want to defend myself here with something. Not Patriots fan, but Dash Endar says, I've never seen anybody not remember names of things more than John. Okay. I do every once in a while, I do, but let me defend myself just a little bit here. All the other YouTubers you watch don't do live. Or at least very, very few of them do. And even the ones that do go live don't do 10 to 15 hours a week live like I do. Normally, when YouTubers make a video, they're talking about one topic that they get to prepare for. And then when they make a mistake, they get to edit it out and all that kind of stuff, right? Me, I do live. Now, if you count the topics and all the questions we get in from our viewers, I'm discussing 40 to 50 topics a day. Randomly, that I don't get to prep for, and I don't get to edit for, and I don't do any of that. So yes, and I propose to you that if a lot of other of my favorite and your favorite YouTubers were to do what I do, you would see them freezing on just as many names as I do sometimes. Because I'm thinking about 20, 30, 40, 50 different topics that I'm talking about in the span of 1.5 to 2 hours a day. And it happens. And it's been like that my entire career. But again, I propose to you, my friend, that the reason you don't see other people doing it is because they pre-record, they're talking about one topic, and they don't do 15 to 20 hours of live content that I do every week. And they're not talking about nearly as many topics. So I agree with you. But just let me defend myself a little bit there because, yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, so with DC and James Gunn, so that's the other big thing they have going for them right now is James Gunn. Yes, there's only one Kevin Feige, but if you can't have Kevin Feige, there's not many people that I would trust more with the future of DC than James Gunn. James Gunn has had great success in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was working with and directly under Kevin Feige for a number of years. Kevin Feige and James Gunn are still best of friends. James Gunn said that the first person he called when he took the DC job was Kevin Feige. He said, that's the first person I called was Kevin to tell him about it. And he's done great movies in the DC world. He's done great movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He is a hardcore from childhood comic book fanatic. He's the guy. I really, and look, he might fail, but there's nobody that I would say has a better shot at success than that. Somebody else is saying like John Favreau. Listen, I love John Favreau. I've sat down and talked with John Favreau on a number of occasions. I think he's fantastic, but John Favreau in the Marvel Cinematic Universe directed an incredibly fantastic Iron Man and a modestly okay Iron Man 2. I'll be honest with you, I didn't like Iron Man 2. But not that Favreau isn't fantastic. I think he's fantastic. But I would trust James Gunn right now even more than I would just trust John Favreau. And believe me, if DC announced that they had hired John Favreau to run the DC Cinematic Universe, I would have been excited about that too. I totally would have been excited about that too. So, yeah. I honestly think, and then when you look at Marvel right now, Marvel, good or bad, is buried under now 15 years of baggage. Some of it's very good baggage, but they're buried under 15 years of content and stories that you have to stay beholden to because you're one cinematic universe. You can't, there's a lot of things you can't do because it wouldn't be consistent with the old stories that they've been telling already. Whereas Marvel, I mean, DC's got a completely clean slate. Now, am I telling you that 5 years from now, Marvel is not making movies as good as the DC movies are? I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying, I think DC has a very bright future. Right now, it's garbage. Like right now, it's in the gutter. No doubt about it. No film in your last 7 even making $400 million. No doubt, not in a good spot right now. But I think the future looks very bright. And listen, people don't like it when I say this, but it's true. I don't expect that Superman Legacy is going to make a lot of money. I mean, James Gunn needs to make Superman Legacy awesome because the audience has given up on the DCEU. They've completely abandoned it. I mean, for heaven's sakes, a movie called Batman versus Superman couldn't make $1 billion. That movie should have been able to make you've heard me say it before, Batman versus Superman, just the title alone. That movie should have made $1 billion in its sleepy time and could have had the potential to be a $2 billion film. Are you kidding me? You're going to make a movie called Batman versus Superman, and that movie doesn't make $1 billion? Are you crazy? That's why I always laugh when people say to me, like if you talk about Star Wars, say what you want about the Kathleen Kennedy era of running Star Wars. And I've had some pro and some very negative things to say about Kathleen Kennedy and her running of Lucasfilm. But I say, take all that. But the reality is her Star Wars films have averaged $1 billion a film, even if you take into account the flop that Solo was. Her Star Wars films have averaged like Rogue One, $1 billion. Force Awakens, $1 billion. Rise of Skywalker, $1 billion. Last Jedi, $1 billion. And then I have some people say to me, oh, Joe, well, that's just because it's a Star Wars movie. Anything you call Star Wars is going to make $1 billion. Bullshit. There was a little movie called Batman versus Superman that should have made $1 billion. It didn't. Solo, a Star Wars story, is a Star Wars movie, did not make $1 billion. So no. Just slapping the right title on it does not guarantee you $1 billion. You still got to do something to get the audience out. And anyway, that's kind of highlighted with Batman vs. Superman. By the way, Batman vs. Superman is a movie that I like. I'm not crapping on Batman vs. Superman. I like that movie. Go back and watch my review. I like that movie. I like it quite a bit, as a matter of fact. But couldn't bring out the audience. Anywhere near the potential that it had. So, yeah, a good question. Do I think that Superman Legacy will crack at least $500 million? That's very difficult to say because I haven't seen a trailer. I mean, I at least got to see a trailer. I mean, it's hard because trailers are ultimately the things that are going to catch people's attention. So does it have the potential to make $500 million? Sure. But I can't sit here now a full year and a half, over a year and a half away from the movie actually comes out to even remarkably or remotely give a guess as to how well it will or won't do at the box office. But yeah, so right now, who do I think? I think that both have a potential bright future, Marvel and DC. But if I had a gun point in my head and I said I had to say whether I think Marvel has the brighter future ahead or DC has a brighter future ahead, I'm going to lean towards DC right now, to be honest with you. And I'm not talking about this year. I'm not talking about next year. I'm talking like 3 years down the road from now. I think DC has a really, really bright future. Whether or not they're able to manifest that, that's up for debate. And we'll see how that all works out. All right, guys. With that down, let's get over to the real reason we are here, which is to take your comments and questions, shall we? So let's get to it. We're going to start off here with Fleur Kitten, who writes, I don't know about other countries, but it was Father's Day here in Finland on Sunday. Oh, I don't think it was Father's Day here. And it showed in attendances. My small hometown theater had 3 people for the Marvels, and it doubled the attendance from the 2 movies they had screened earlier that day. I think it's different in North America, because in North America, on special occasions and holidays, those tend to be big movie-going days. Like, for instance, Christmas Day is the single biggest box office day of the year. Did you know that? Crazy, right? You would think nobody's going to the movies at Christmas, but Christmas is a big day. And by the way, only 3 people were going to theaters in every country and every city across the world to see the Marvels, because not many people, I mean, I get it, John. Nearly $50 million for an opening weekend is not nothing. I know that's absolutely true. Many films would kill to have a near $50 million opening. I get it. I'm not saying they wouldn't. But for a Marvel film, that's like nobody going to see it. What was it? 47? Something like that. I think the Marvels made 47 million opening weekend. Yeah. So by Marvel standards, not many people were going to see it, and which is too bad because it's not a bad little film. I had problems with it, but overall, I thought it was not a bad little film. It could have been much better. Should have been a much better movie, but it was still pretty decent for what it was. But woo, ouch. Not a lot of people wanted to go see it though. That's just the reality of it. All right. Let's see. Oh, by the way, an Angel says, Angel is saying that the Marvels actually made over 100 million worldwide opening weekend. Guys, how many? I got to teach you this. I got to teach you. Listen to me. Listen closely. Come close. Listen very closely. You do not count the worldwide total when you're talking about opening weekend. Never mention it because it's completely irrelevant. Why is it completely irrelevant? Because no two movies open in the same amount of countries every time. Some movies open in North America and 10 other markets on a day. Some movies open in North America and 40 other markets on the same day. You can't compare them. It's not apples to apples. What is an apples to apples comparison is the domestic. So whenever you're talking about a movie's overall box office, you always talk about the global, worldwide total box office. But whenever you talk about opening weekend, you only, if you want to be taken seriously, you only talk about the North American opening weekend box office because that's a true apples to apples comparison. Much like when you're talking about the end of a film's run, you can total the worldwide total because it had its full run. That movie had its full run. It is an apples to apples comparison then, but only ever talk about opening weekend in North America when you're talking about North American box office, because that's the only way you can actually have a proper comparison. Anyway, next up, Herald of Darkness writes, Baldur's Gate 3 and Alan Wake 2 tied for most nominations at the Game Awards. They better do a live version of the song from the musical segment in Alan Wake 2. Most bonkers thing I've ever seen in a video game. Sam Lake had to fight to keep it in the game. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I've never even seen a trailer for Alan Wake 2. Like I went down all the 6 nominees for Game of the Year, and Alan Wake 2 was the one game like I never even knew that was a game. I never saw anybody talk about it. That's not me talking crap. I'm just saying I never heard anybody talk about it. I didn't even know it was there. So yeah, I can't say anything about that, but I think Baldur's Gate 3 might be the best video game ever made. Like not just this year. I think Baldur's Gate 3 might be the best video game ever made. But yeah, we'll see how that all turns out. All right. Next up, we've got Suthius writes, immigration, discrimination, the forbidden interracial love, and trying to balance making your parents proud while wanting you to live your own life. Finally watched Elemental, and it is very relatable, awesome movie, creative, artistic way of storytelling. It's brilliant. Listen, I have no qualms saying it's brilliant. Elemental is brilliant. I was floored when I watched it. I mean, I was interested in Elemental. I thought the trailers looked cute. It's Pixar, so I always give it the benefit of the doubt. But that was a movie that was way better than I thought had any business being. It was absolutely, and not just, very, very adult themes in it. It's a story. It's an immigration story at the heart of it. It's really an immigration story. And it deals with issues that immigrants would face. And I am the child of an immigrant. My dad came over, like my mom is born Canadian, but my dad came over to Canada from Italy, from the old country. When my grandfather came over, my grandfather, Giovanni Campea, who I am named after. That's why when you hear me say my real name is actually Giovanni, I'm named after my grandfather, my nonno, Giovanni, who came over, brought his family to start a new life for his family. And I'm a first generation Canadian. And so much of that movie really spoke to me about, when I hear stories from my grandfather who's passed away just a couple of years ago now. It just nailed so many things. It is such a brilliant, brilliant movie. Just so good. I can't even get over how good that movie is. And it's not the best Pixar film of all time, but I put it right near the top. All right. Next up, Min writes, do you see Marvel moving away from multiverse stuff if they move away from Kang Dynasty? Maybe not close it off, but stop doing movies and TV shows with multiverse in it. I don't think whatever they decide to do with Kang, whether they're going to use Kang as the big baddie moving forward or not, I don't think that's going to have anything to do with their plans for multiverse. I believe they've got multiverse. There's nothing they can do about that right now. It's there. I believe the next 2 Avengers films, culminating in what will probably be called Secret Wars, will wrap up the multiverse story. So whether Kang is the big bad guy moving forward or Doctor Doom, or another villain is the big bad going into Secret Wars. That's where I think they'll close off Multiverse. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know, but I don't think it has anything to do with whether Kang is the villain or not. All right. BK Dan writes, John, given Hala is a viable place, it's not a viable place. What do you give odds that New Asgard will also relocate there? No. Hala is not a viable place. Hala is the afterlife in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Jane Foster goes there. It's a spiritual afterlife place. It's not a physical place that people can just hop on a bus and relocate to. So I would give the chances that Hala being a place that New Asgard just ups and goes to. Well, if they pull a is it Jonestown? Is it Jonestown that had the big religious mass suicide? Help me out in the live chat, guys. I can't remember. Was that Jonestown or was it Allentown? I can't remember. Oh, thank you. You know what? Guys in the live chat are reminding me it's not Hala. It's not Hala. I was thinking of Valhalla. Valhalla. Sorry, got my Halas mixed. Yeah, Hala, of course, is the home planet of the Kree. That's what you're asking. The home planet of the Kree. Okay, now let me look at BK's Dan question again. Say I got Hala, Valhalla. Anyway, I got that mixed up in my head. Given Valhalla, thank you guys. Given Valhalla is a viable place, what do you give the odds that New Asgard will relocate there? 0. Listen, the Kree are still an antagonistic people, right? They, as Captain Marvel said in the movie, at one point, they dominated 25% of the known universe. I don't think they're just opening up their borders for immigration at that point. I really don't. So I would say very, very little. Then again, you might be able to make the argument that Captain Marvel reigniting their son may be seen. I mean, maybe that could change things. I'm still going to guess no, BK. I don't really see a connection between, Asgard and the Kree. So I'm going to go with still very small on that. But yes, Valhalla is not Hala. 2 different places, 2 entirely different groups of people. One is dead people. One is the Kree. All right, next up. Ash Tiki writes, unlike the vast majority of people I see at the movie theater, I stay in my seat all the way through the very end of the credits. I often enjoy listening to the music and ruminate about what I just watched. Also, I try to find the longest last name. That's a cool game. There are some movies I will do that to. Some movies I will stay in my seat the whole time. Like especially if it's a very deep, very profound film, I'll sometimes just sit there and ruminate. Obviously, if it's an MCU movie or a comic book movie, I'll stay in my seat just to maybe see if there's an end credit scene. But having a lot of friends who work in the visual effects community, sometimes I'll read the visual effects credits to see if there's anybody I know. But there's so many names in it that even if there are people in there that I know, I probably will miss their name anyway. But yeah. All right. Next up, Gus's gas station analyst writes, is there a movie theater? Oh, there is a movie theater near my home that has an awful design. The hallway doors open directly into the seating area. Each theater room feels like a small voluntary luxury prison chamber. I prefer bigger theaters that have subtle indirect passageways. I mean, I guess it's all depends. Like, for example, the AMC theater, dine-in theater that's closest to me, it's actually very small rooms, right? Like 30, 40 seats, but they're the big, like full reclining table swinging in front of you, lots of room for food service and all that kind of stuff to bring in and bring you food and everything. So I don't mind it coming right off the hallway. That's fine. And I don't even mind a small little room if it's a luxury room. Other than that, yeah, I'm kind of with you. I like big movie theaters. I like to feel I'm in a big event space rather than a smaller, more intimate space. Unless it's a luxury theater, then I like that a lot. All right. Let's see here. Sylvester writes, I thought the Ahsoka series was entertaining. Glad you did. But the Star Whale seems so weird and out of the Star Wars realm that I thought I was watching a different sci-fi subgenre. One useful thing I learned is how to properly fold my arms. By the way, did you see the Ahsoka Honest trailers. Honest trailers. They did an Ahsoka thing, and I laughed my ass off through it. And before you say, John, you're only laughing at it because you didn't like Ahsoka. No. One of my favorite things from Honest trailers or pitch meeting is when they start ripping on some of my favorite movies. I find that really fun. I find that really funny. But the Honest trailers for Ahsoka was absolutely hilarious. I would go look it up on YouTube, Honest trailers Ahsoka. And they did such a big thing of sighing and arm crossing, like a whole big thing of it. It was really quite funny. All right, next up, we got Mike P, who writes, "Hey, John, hope you're well. I am well, thank you. One of my favorite movies this year was Spider-Verse. It is my favorite movie of the year so far, even above Oppenheimer. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is my number one favorite film of the year so far. With the actors' strike, has that increased its chances of getting a Best Picture nod at the next Oscars, considering upcoming season hasn't had the same promotional season?" No, I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was going to get, I honestly do. I really think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is getting a Best Picture nomination, whether there was or was not a strike. I mean, obviously with Dune 2 being moved out to 2024, and Dune 2 was an automatic Best Picture nomination, that frees up one spot to really make sure that Spider-Verse gets it. But I think even if the first Dune stayed in 2023, I still think Across the Spider-Verse is getting a Best Picture nomination. I really do. So yeah. All right. Next up, we've got Heisenberg. And Heisenberg writes, "Hello, John Campea and crew. No crew, just me on open mic. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to Wrexham. Just got renewed for season 3. Yes, I saw that. Did you get a chance to watch season 2? If yes, I would like to know your thoughts about it. Thanks, and bring on the filthy." I am not caught up on season 2. I've watched a bunch of it. The last episode I watched, I think it was episode 6 of this season, where they focused on the women's Wrexham team, which I thought was fat. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that these teams, the club actually has multiple teams. I didn't know that. So I guess that's why they call it, football club, because it's more than just the men's team. But that was the last episode I watched. I think I'm 2 or 3 episodes behind. I have loved this season, especially that episode about the dude's kid. The kid, I can't, what was his condition? Is it autistic kid? I can't remember exactly, but the episode about his son, about his kid, I thought was so moving. I have absolutely loved the whole premise of Welcome to Wrexham is just so heartwarming. It's uplifting. It's positive, and it's really funny just watching these guys do this thing. I just think it's really fun. I have absolutely loved it, and I'm really, really happy that they got themselves a season 3. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to finishing this season as well. All right. Let's see. Next up, we got Dwarfer writes, "Hey, John, I heard you're a big Hulk fan." I am. There is one way you could do a World War Hulk movie. Hulk's son could get caught in the crossfire and die and bring back your nuclear warhead. You can have that script for free if you come to the UK and meet. No, you can't. See, that's the problem. The MCU has brought Hulk. Hulk is now Hawaiian shirt wearing, family barbecue attending Hulk now. A big tragedy could happen to this Hulk right now. He's not going to turn on the whole world, right? He's not going to turn on the whole world. You would have to spend years. Like most comic book stories, people say you have to spend years building that up. No, you don't. But with all the stuff you've already done with Hulk, and you've brought Bruce Banner now to the point that he's at, it would take years to build up to a World War Hulk movie, because you have to slowly start to change him from being Hawaiian shirt wearing, family barbecue attending Hulk to getting a little darker, little grim. Then you got to set up a story where the other world's heroes start to see Hulk as being too dangerous for the world. Right now, Hulk, the way he is not too dangerous for the world. He's not a danger to the world at all right now. So you'd have to build him getting more darker, getting more powerful, having the world, like the world of superhero leaders coming together and agreeing that he's gotten too powerful for the world. Then you have to have them doing something that is so monumentally tragic, and then Hulk blames them for it and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, that's not something with where they are right now. With where they are with Bruce right now, that's not something you can do in one movie, unfortunately. So it would be tough, although I would love to see a World War Hulk. But it's going to take a long time if they ever really could. All right. Next up, Garden Variety Vagabond writes, I watched the Madam Web trailer. I know really nothing about Madam Web or any version of Spider-Woman, but this trailer captivated me, and now I can't wait to see it. I chalk that up to both a great trailer and Dakota Fanning's great acting in it. I liked the trailer. I'm not going to say I loved it. I didn't. The dialogue delivery in the trailer, again, it's just a trailer. It's all out of context. So maybe in context, it'll hit me completely differently. But all the dialogue, including the narration, came across as kind of wooden to me. And that's concerning. But overall, I am interested in this concept. The concept of this, like we talked about it like 6 months ago when we heard rumors of the concept, was the idea of a Terminator kind of plot overlaid on this spider universe. I think could be very interesting. You got Dakota Johnson, by the way, not Dakota Fanning. You got Dakota Johnson in there, who I think is she's really great. She's often in very bad movies, but I think she's actually quite a good actress. So we'll see. I mean, maybe it'll be garbage. Maybe it'll be really good. We'll find out soon enough. All right. Next up, Garden Variety Vagabond also writes, for those looking forward to the Godzilla show, watch Kimmel's interview with Kurt and Wyatt Russell. They are great together. To think wouldn't have had this if strike hadn't ended in time. Oh, you're talking about the interview. Yeah, I haven't seen the interview. I would love to watch it. I think them doing it as father and son, playing the same character in two different eras. I've loved that idea since they first announced they were doing it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to checking that out. And I'll go look up that interview. Thanks, Garden Variety. All right, next up. Swanson Burgundy writes, my top 3 flying scenes in movies. 1, Peter regains his memories in Pan. I do like that a lot. Bangarang. That was a really good scene. 2, Superman's first flight in Man of Steel. Absolutely love that. 1, Woody and Buzz falling with style in Toy Story. What are some of your favorite flying/flight scenes in movies? Well, I love that Peter Pan one. I love that one from Hook with Robin Williams. The one in Man of Steel is awe-inspiring. Every time I watch that movie and they have that first flight scene, I feel chills. I love it. I'm going to throw another one in there, actually, and it's from an animated film, but it's from the Zack Snyder film, Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Gaul. You guys have heard me mention this film every once in a while. It's a seriously underrated Zack Snyder film. I really like it a lot. And part of the reason I really like it is because the flying, the cinematography in the flying scenes is really awe-inspiring. I love it. So yeah, I would say that one would be right up there for me too, Swanson. All right, next up. We go to BK Dan, who writes, John, regarding James Gunn greenlighting the writer for Supergirl, have Gunn will make bank. We trusted Feige in choosing Gunn. Let's trust Gunn. Hey, listen, I do trust Gunn. I do. That's why I'm not panicking. I just said it's concerning. And listen, if you're going to be honest, it is concerning. And by the way, Feige hiring Gunn is a different situation. Gunn may have not done a bunch of big budget stuff, but he had made a lot of films. He had a resume. He made some wonderful movies. Like, listen, I'm sorry, as good as Guardians of the Galaxy is, James Gunn's best movie to this day is Slither. I think that's his best movie. As much as I love Guardians of the Galaxy, I still think Slither is his best film. It's amazing. So that or Super or whatever else you want to do. James Gunn had a very respectable resume already. This girl has no resume when it comes to writing. None. But John, there's a short film. I don't give a crap about a short film. Don't get me wrong. I've made short films. I respect short films, but that's not the same thing as being a writer on a television series or being a writer of a feature film. I just don't think it's the same thing. So yeah, I'm concerned about it, but I'm not panicking. It is James Gunn. He said the script is great. okay, I'm going to give James Gunn the benefit of the doubt, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to turn off my brain and then suddenly pretend like I don't think that getting a first timer isn't risky. It is. History has proved that. You can pull out a number of examples. You can count on one, maybe two hands of hiring a first-time writer or director on a big budget tentpole film and it's worked out. It's not a high degree of success. So again, in James Gunn, I trust, but I think it would be naive not to be a little concerned about it. And I say this is the biggest, you guys know, I've taken a lot of crap for being the biggest James Gunn supporter on the internet today. I don't care. You go look anywhere. I am the number one James Gunn supporter on the internet who does kind of what I do. I have been 100% behind the fact that he got the DC job. I am 100% that he's the reason they're going to have a bright future. I am 100% all in on James Gunn. But that doesn't mean that if he makes a decision that I think is a little bit questionable, I'm going to call out that I think it's a little bit questionable. I still believe it doesn't take away from the fact that I believe in them and that I trust them. But I do think it's a little bit concerning. I think it's a little bit concerning. All right. Anyway, next up, we've got Anonymous who writes, even though the trailer for Madam Web didn't awe me, I do have some relief knowing that the writers of Morbius are actually no longer attached. Was the change in writers ever mentioned prior to the trailer dropping? I don't remember seeing anything. I'll be honest with you, Anonymous, off the top of my head, I don't remember the writers of Morbius ever being attached to Madam Web. I don't remember that. I mean, maybe it absolutely was, and I'm just not remembering off the top of my head because it's not been something that's been important to me. Imagine that. The Madam Web movie over the past 2 years has not been something that's been all that important to me. Kind of interesting, but not that important. So I didn't even realize that. All right, next up. An anonymous reviewer also writes, let's see. Oh, hi, people. Not sure how I feel for another He-Man live action, but just for fun casting, Hemsworth as He-Man / Adam and Hiddleston or Michael Shannon as Skeletor sound. Momoa as Beastman, Batista as Trapjaw. I never know how to pronounce this name. Anjay True as Evelyn and JB Smoove as Orko. I don't care about fan casting. I don't care. I don't think you'd see, I mean, listen, Chris Hemsworth playing He-Man is kind of the obvious answer, right? That's kind of it, right? I mean, he kind of looks like He-Man. You know, shave the beard, he kind of looks like He-Man. It's so on the nose, though, that I don't think they'll go that way. King Daddy Goat is saying Liam Hemsworth. Here's the problem. I haven't seen any evidence that Liam Hemsworth can act his way out of a paper bag. I know that sounds harsh. I've met Liam Hemsworth. He's a super chill, very nice guy. But I have yet to see something where he's convinced me he can act. And I feel bad saying that because he's so nice. We'll see what happens when he does The Witcher, the next season of The Witcher. We'll see how that goes, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. Next up, we've got, who do we got next? We've got Kelt Emis writes, hey, John, I missed the chance to notify your viewers on Veterans Day, but if any are fellow veterans / service members, such as I, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus have a 25% military discounts. I didn't know that. Doubtful WB were honored if Paramount is acquired. Max doesn't have this. Well, I think, most places don't have that, but I think the ones that do, I think that's great. And I think that's awesome that you're writing that in to make sure people know that they have that. So, hey, if you've been on the fence about getting Paramount Plus or Disney Plus, and you're somebody in the military, maybe 25% off. And with the prices going up, 25% off is an even bigger value. So take advantage of that. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate that very much. I'm sure other people do too. All right. Next up, Anonymous writes, hey, John, you've previously said you're not a fan of prequel movies in general. Yes. But Hunger Games 5 was originally made as a novel, not a movie. It was written originally by Suzanne Collins, not a money-hungry studio. Does a creative choice like this one not fueled by money. Okay, I'm about to give you a lesson on something, but we'll wait a second. Change your opinion on a prequel story. I, for one, would love to explore the games. Give us Haymitch's games. Thanks, bring on the filthy. Okay, first of all, this statement here. Does a creative choice like this one not fueled by money? Okay, you ready? I'm about to blow your mind. Yes, it was motivated by money. And I'm about to blow your mind even more. Every single movie you have ever watched was motivated by money. At least every single movie you've ever watched that was actually a studio production and put into theaters and all that kind of stuff. Every single fucking one of them was motivated by money. It is the movie business. They make these movies. They don't invest dozens, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars just for kicks. They put up that money to make money. I'm not saying that the person initially writing the script was just in it for the money, but the movies get made, the movies get paid for because it is a business, and they hope that this product that they're making, which is art, but it's still a product, that this product they're making will make them money. Every single movie ever made. It's for money. It is. Andrew W. puts it best here. It's not community theater, right? It's not community theater. Now, as far as prequels, I don't have a problem with prequels. And remember, there are prequels I like, but just in general, I'm not a fan of the concept of prequels. The problem I have with prequels isn't because it's money-grubbing studios. No, a prequel is just another sequel, really. I mean, there's no different, right? My problem with prequels is you are automatically limited by the stories you can tell. So, for example, in Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I never have to wonder if whenever Coriolanus is in a dangerous situation, I don't even have to wonder or guess if he's going to be really harmed or killed or lose a limb or something like that, because I know Coriolanus' story. I know it continues on. I know he goes on to become President Snow and blah, blah, blah. I never have to wonder. One of the big things in Songbirds and Snakes is that the government's thinking about ending the Hunger Games. Well, I never even have to wonder if they're going to end the Hunger Games because I know how that turns out, right? It's just a lot of the storytelling in prequels become limited. Now, when you talk about prequels like that go back hundreds of years or thousands of years, like Star Wars: The Old Republic, well, you're so far removed from the events of traditional Star Wars that there really are no handcuffs. The universe is pretty wide. You can do whatever you want in those stories because there's so much time that separates that from the current stories that we know that you can really do anything you want in those things. Like even House of the Dragon, which isn't separated by a lot of time from the main Game of Thrones, but it's far enough in time separated that the storytelling is really kind of open. So no, whether the idea for the prequel came from a book or not, to me, it's still the same thing. It's still a prequel. Its storytelling tools are still going to be limited. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out of a film when it's a prequel. And again, there are prequels I really, really enjoy. Much like I hate time travel in movies, but there are time travel movies that I love. Star Trek IV, Back to the Future. But for the most, I'm saying in principle, I don't like it. And the fact that it was in a book first has nothing to do with it. For me, that has nothing to do with it. All right. Now, by the way, you don't have to feel the same way I do. Hell, none of you have to feel the same way I do about any of the topics that we discuss. I'm just telling you from my own personal perspective. That's all. And my perspective is not the right perspective. It's just a perspective. Yours can be completely different from mine and completely equally as valid. So just want to throw that out there. All right. Next up. Also, the anonymous writer writes, Metamorpho is a tragically misunderstood character who begins as a villain and later joins the Justice League. My Superman plot theory: Metamorpho commits a crime. The Authority decides to kill him. Superman fights the Authority to save him. Lex stirs pot. That doesn't sound bad. That doesn't sound bad. The only reason I don't think it's going to go that way is because I think they're going to go more in the lines of Kingdom Come. I think they're going to go thematically more. For any of you who have read the iconic one of the all-time great graphic novel stories, Kingdom Come, it's Superman and the other OG heroes. This is set sometime in the future, like a number of decades in the future, are looking at the current generation of heroes, and they're way out of control. And they become too authoritarian, and they don't value or protect innocence enough. They say, like, bring evildoers to justice, no matter the cost. It's like, and like Superman and the other OGs need to draw a line in the sand and say, no, you can't do that. So I don't think, I could see it more being like Kingdom Come, where Superman has to kind of step forward and say, this is not what superheroes can be. This is not what superheroes are supposed to be. We need to be something better. We need to be something different. And I think they might go that way. But your idea sounds perfectly valid too, to be honest with you. All right. Last question before we take a short break, guys. We've already been going over 45 minutes. So Suthius writes, so now people are hating on Rachel Zegler just because of what she said about her vision of Snow White, just because of her thoughts and opinions. Do people nowadays not have thick skin and are just offended about every single goddamn thing? Oy vey. Yeah, listen, I'll tell you what. Here's the thing. I'm not going to pretend that I like every actor out there. There are actors I don't like. I'm not going to pretend that I like every filmmaker out there. There are filmmakers I don't like. But, and we can all have a million different reasons why we do or don't like certain people. That's all fair. That's fine. Whatever floats your boat or sinks it, as the case may be. Here's the difference, though. I'm not going to name any names as far as actors or directors that I may not like. Like, I don't think I would like them personally. I don't think that's somebody I'd want to go hang out with one night. You know what I mean? But just because there's an actor who I don't like the way they carry themselves, I don't like the way they talk, I don't like the way they come across, whatever. That's one thing. It in no way, shape, or form deters me from seeing their movies, because we go to see movies. Listen, 1,000 people work on a movie. There's bound to be 5 dozen assholes who worked on that movie. I'm not going to not go see that movie because 5 dozen assholes worked on it. It's the movies are movies. Personal things are personal things. Now, you take somebody like Chris Brown, who demonstrably actually beat a woman and punched her in the face so much she got hospitalized. Yeah, I won't see anything that fucking asshole does. Fuck him. He's a little bitch. Anyway, don't even get me going. But so many actors say or do things or act in a way that I think is off-putting and I don't like, and that's fine. And it's perfectly fair for me to not like them. That's fair for me to not like them. But if they're involved in a movie project that 1,000 other people worked on and they're in it, I can still go and appreciate their work. Right? It's fine. I'm not going to go every time I don't like somebody. You know what? I heard that one guy spoke mean to a waiter once. I'm going to not go to see any of their movies. Fuck that guy. Like, come on, get over yourself. Get over yourself. The Rachel Zegler thing is a testimony to how an entire generation, instead of raising sons, have raised little bitches. Because it's fair to not like Rachel Zegler. Like, you don't like her point of view on things. You don't like the way she speaks. You don't like the way she walks. You don't like the way she wears her hair. None of you know her personally. So we're just talking about very external things, like some very, surface things, because that's all you know. You don't know her personally. But it's fair. If you don't like her, you don't like her. That's perfectly fine. But I swear to God, I lament so much as I get near the end of my career and get ready to wrap up and everything, and I look at the proliferation of weakness online these days, of little bitches instead of men, of insufferable little frightened crybaby children that I see proliferating all over the place because other insufferable crybaby little children feel safe with them. It makes me lament. It makes me lament. It really makes me, it's sad. It doesn't make me angry. It makes me sad. Because this whole notion that, hey, this actress, this extremely talented young actress, gave some opinions about help me out in the live chat, guys. What year did the original Snow White come out? I want to say 1939. It might have been in the 40s. But if any of you guys know the actual day, so I'm just going to go with 1933. Well, someone's saying 1933, some are saying 1937, whatever. The 1930s. I'm going to go with 1937. A couple of people say 1937. The amount of crying I've seen grown-ass, quote-unquote, men do online about some young girl's philosophical look at a 1939 cartoon and seeing them lose their shit, like lose their minds over some young girl's thoughts and opinions, philosophical thoughts and opinions about a 1937 cartoon is laughable and pathetic. It's sad. Like if she says things that rubs you the wrong way and you don't like her, hey, that's fine. Yeah, don't like her. But the explosion of fuck her. Oh, I'm not going to watch anything she's in. Why? What did she do? Is there video of her tripping an old lady coming out of her grocery store, spitting in her face and stealing her groceries? No. Did they catch her picking up puppies and throwing puppies off cliffs? No. Did they catch her drunk driving and ramming her car into a school bus full of children? No. Well, what did she do that's got everybody so fucking losing their minds? She said some things about a 1937 cartoon that I don't agree with. Say that again? What's all this uproar about? Tell me again what this entire uproar about is? Well, there's this cartoon in 1937, you see. And there's some themes in it. There's a woman, a damsel in distress, and a prince, and how they handled things back in 1937. And she doesn't like the way they did that back then and thinks it should be done differently today. And she put it in wording that I didn't really like. And where's the part where she kicks a veteran, a 97-year-old veteran in the nuts and spits in his face? Where's that part? Oh, no, that's it. That's what has all these men got their little panties shoved up their assholes and losing their minds over. That's what this is about? Yeah, I'm allowed to not like her. Grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up. What the fuck happened to real men acting like little fucking children and little whiny bitches? What the hell is going on? Again, I ain't saying you need to like her. A lot of actors and directors I don't like. Okay, I don't say you need to like her, but the degree of outrage, the degree of the nonsense I'm seeing over the fact that she spoke about how philosophically she doesn't like how this cartoon in 1937 was handled and how she thinks it should be handled differently today. Fine, that makes you not like her? That's okay. You're allowed to not like somebody for you're allowed to not like her because you don't like the shoes she wears. Whatever, it doesn't matter. You're allowed to not like her. But it's crazy, man. And let's just say this. It's two things. It's certain people trying to overcompensate for something, and it's certain people using that as a veiled pretext. You guys know what it is. I'm not going to spell it out for you. It's a lot of people just using that as an excuse and as a pretext to make it an issue. But it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, guys, listen. We still have a ton of questions to get through, but before we continue on, we're going to take just a quick moment here and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode, our friends at HelloFresh and Quip, and then we'll be right back to continue on with your questions. See you in a minute. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. And that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Guys, the holidays are right around the corner, and HelloFresh can help take the stress out of dinner by delivering everything you need to cook up tasty meals right to your door, saving you tons of time. We all know the holidays can be hectic, and that's where HelloFresh's 15-minute meals come in. These quick fixes help you get a wholesome meal on the table in less time than it takes to get delivery. I've told you guys many times before that Ann and I, being working professionals, often would struggle when it comes to dinner time, having time to put something that tastes good and is healthy for us in front of us. Well, HelloFresh, with their great delivery, pre-portioned ingredients, easy to follow instructions, has made dinner time a fun time. So go to HelloFresh.com/CampeaFree and use the code CampeaFree for breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/CampeaFree with the code CampeaFree. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Quip. Guys, you know that good health starts with good habits, and Quip makes it easy by delivering all the oral care essentials that you need to care for your mouth. For example, their incredible electric toothbrush. Guys, I've been using electric toothbrushes for years, and this is easily the best one I've ever owned. Timed sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses to guide a dentist-recommended 2-minute clean. A lightweight and sleek design for adults and kids with no wires or bulky charger to weigh you down. Reusable handles in a range of sleek metal hues, as well as bright plastic colors, sure to make a pop on your bathroom counter. Skip the batteries and snap into healthy habits with the new rechargeable electric toothbrush. All the features of the original Quip, plus one magnetic charge, powers up to 3 months of brushing. In addition to brush heads, Quip also delivers fresh floss, toothpaste, mouthwash, and gum refills every 3 months from just $7. So if you go to getquip.com/Campea right now, you'll get 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, or water flosser. That's your 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, water flosser at getquip.com/Campea. That's GETQUIP.com/Campea. Quip, the good habits company. And thank you again to our friends at HelloFresh and Quip for sponsoring this episode. All right, guys, with that down, let's get back over to your questions here, shall we? And we're going to pick things up here with Swanson Burgundy, who writes, what's a movie or show that you found exhausting? Best way I describe it is something that doesn't slow down. There's no quiet moments, everything dialed up to 11 all the time, where you had to stop and take a break. I think a good example of this, and it's not just because it was all action, but because the nature of it, is the third Hobbit film. The third Hobbit film. I can't even remember what the name of it was. What was the name of it? Was it the Three Armies? I can't remember. I honestly don't remember what they named any of the Hobbit movies. I think the first one was called There and Back Again. Anyway, the third Hobbit film, I think, is a good example of this. Battle of the Five Armies. Thank you, Shio. Battle of the Five, or what's it, either the Five Armies or Battle of the Five Armies, one of the two. So here's the problem, though. Like that movie, first of all, The Hobbit never should have been 3 movies. The Hobbit as a book is smaller than all of the Lord of the Rings books, like significantly smaller than all the Lord of the Rings books. And each Lord of the Rings book got 1 movie. They took the smallest book, The Hobbit, and split it into 3. One of the negative repercussions of that is the fact that the third film was all a third act. Like a movie needs to have a first, second, and third act, a beginning, middle, and the end. Star Wars, 3 acts. Empire Strikes Back, 3 acts. Return of the Jedi, 3 acts, right? Same with the Lord of the Rings films, the Godfather films, whatever. The third Hobbit film was all third act. It was all payoff with no setup. And here's the thing that kind of is a great example of this. In the third film, when we get to the big final, the big ultimate confrontation that we had been waiting for, right? The fight between Thorin Oakenshield and the White Orc. There was no emotion in that because it's like Peter Jackson forgot that it had been a couple of years since we'd even seen Thor and Oakenshield and the White Orc on screen together. Right? We hadn't even seen them on screen together for years. And so we come to this climactic battle between them. And this is just an example of this. We come to this climactic battle between them, and it's devoid of any emotional stakes in, because we weren't made to build up to feel it in that movie. And that's what a lot of that last Hobbit film is. Even in the quiet moments, it's all just the culmination of something that never came about being set up in that film. And so the third film just acted as a payoff for every single thing rather than having a distinct 3 acts. And that's an example for me, for example. And I like the other 2 Hobbit movies, by the way. Nowhere near as good as The Lord of the Rings, but I like the first 2 Hobbit movies. The third one, though, I personally feel really suffered from that. Anyway, next up. Garden Variety Vagabond writes, one thing I love about Pedro as Reed Richards is that the MCU needs a character who you just feel that the others would see as a leader. Completely agree. I said this the other day. They need a grown-up, like a real legit grown-up. Anyway, Reed Richards needs to be that. I love Ms. Marvel, but if she showed up and said to follow her and her iPad, ... I guess that's the only thing. Yeah, no, Reed Richards, listen, the Fantastic Four, I said this the other day, I believe they should be the elder statesmen of the MCU. They are the first family of comics. And even though they haven't been in the MCU yet, I believe they should kind of be the elder statesmen of the MCU. And you need to have an actor, I believe, and this is why I never liked the idea of doing the Fantastic Four babies, like the Muppet babies. Fantastic Four babies, oh, they're little children as Fantastic Four. No. See, I've always liked the idea because you need a Reed Richards that, like, I'm sorry, but I'm never going to believe like a 28-year-old is the smartest person in the world. They just simply have not had the time alive to study that much stuff. They just haven't been around long enough. They can be very intelligent, but not actually know a whole ton of stuff. You might even be able to say that about somebody in their mid-40s, but it's more believable with somebody in their mid-40s, somebody who's had 15 more years on Earth to study and learn and expand their knowledge and all that kind of stuff. I want to Reed Richards that, and I think John Krasinski could have pulled this off. I think there are other choices that would have been good too. It's not only Pedro Pascal, but one of the reasons I love the idea of Pedro Pascal being it is he can bring that. He can bring that energy that he walks into the room, and I believe he can instantly make you feel like he's the leader. And once they put the white hair in the sides there, and they start, I got a bit of this. See, I got the gray up in here. Maybe I could be Reed Richards. You see the gray in the side. You start putting that white on, in his hair and on the sides, and he walks in. I think he's the type of actor that has that sort of power, that on-screen power that he can command a room. And I think he's going to be fabulous. If it does end up being him, I think he's a fabulous choice. And there are others that would be fabulous choices as well, but I think he'd be great. All right, next up. Caleb writes, hey, John, I've been watching Game of Thrones for the first time. Nice. And I see why it was so popular at the time, but I would like to know, was there a reason why they shortened the last 2 seasons? I just passed season 7, and even though it was great, it felt rushed. Oh, no, listen, that I think, even amongst the people who, like me, really appreciated the last 2 seasons, and amongst a big group of people who didn't like the last 2 seasons, one of the things that we all agree on was the last 2 seasons were absolutely rushed. Unnecessarily. It was the showrunners. By the way, the showrunners who made the show the most award-winning, the most iconic, the most pop culturally impactful show in history, the 2 Daves, the D&D. They're the ones who made the show great. But it was their decision. It wasn't HBO. HBO was like, hey, make as many episodes as you want. It was their decision to make these really short seasons because I think they wanted to move on to other things, which was really frustrating. It was unnecessary. Those things didn't need to be that short. They still put a lot of really good stuff in it. but it was unnecessarily short, and it was completely the showrunner's decision. HBO said, take all the time you need. They wanted to make these really short seasons. Anyway, next up, we've got Drew, who writes, hey, John and everyone, just me. Does a film's box office determine how good the movie is? Absolutely not. I know there are plenty of good movies that have bombed. I know film is art and subjective, but I was explaining this to someone who didn't get what I was saying. Thoughts? Yeah, no, listen. There are things in box office that can indicate, that can be indicators of the quality of a movie, but it is not the thing that determines the quality of a movie. So for instance, on the positive side, when a movie like, say, well, let's take a recent example, Elemental, right? Let's take that. The movie opens tiny, had like a, I want to say like a 20-something million opening. Hold a second. Elemental, box office mojo. I want to say a $27 million opening. I don't know if I'm right about that. Elemental had a $29 million opening. Tiny. That movie, a movie that opens 29 million, you're looking at maybe going on to make 190 to $250 million. But look at this. It made nearly $500 million. Now, that box office becomes one indicator, and there are many, but an indicator that, oh my God, the word of mouth had to be extremely positive. People had to go back and watch it multiple times, and they brought other people, because you don't get to 29 million of an opening and then end up with 495 million unless your movie was quite good, right? Because you open that small, not a lot of people were interested in it. The quality of the film got them interested, and we see it made nearly $500 million. At the same time, you can look at a film that has like a big opening and then has like a 65-70% drop off from week 1 to week 2, stuff like that. Indicator, didn't have good word of mouth. People didn't go back to see it again. They didn't bring other people to go see it with them, all that kind of stuff. Indicators, but it is not definitive. There are billion-dollar films that actually aren't that good. There are movies that completely flopped that are fantastic. So box office can suggest some indicators about the quality of a film, but it's certainly not definitive because there are examples to the contrary, as a matter of fact. All right, good question, man. All right, next up. Sam Fisher writes, 1 of 3. I agree with you, John, when it comes to seeing Pedro Pascal as Reed or Victor. In my opinion, the best person you can get to play both Reed and Victor are actors who could very easily swap roles. Both characters are two sides of the same coin in a way that Batman and Joker are. By the way, I did not suggest that he should play both roles. That was one of our fans who wrote in and say that. Just throwing that out there. And Batman and Joker are not. Both are brilliant and science-minded men who can be arrogant and see the bigger picture and think the ends justify the means. Both are also the hero. In Doom's case, he thinks he's the hero, and Latveria sees him as a hero. But the Maker proves that Reed can be a villain. Yeah, he's brutal. Even worse than Victor. The only real difference is Reed can put his family above himself. Victor can't. The most important person to Victor is Victor, and maybe Reed's daughter, Valeria. Also, I just want to put in there, too, Victor, at least in many storylines, Doom is actually very serious in his passion for Latveria. He's very, very protective of Latveria. He may be a dictator, he may be all that kind of stuff, but he is, you mess with the people of Latveria, you're going to have a Dr. Doom problem, right? So that's a big part of it too. So, but yeah, they are a great yin and yang. Like Doom and Richards. I'm not saying Doom and Richards are as good as Batman and Joker, but they might be even more yin and yang than Batman and Joker are. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's a really good observation, Sam. I like that. All right, next up. Miss Chandler Bong writes, have you seen the trailer for what is likely to be the greatest hockey movie ever / cult classic, Minor Leaguer? I have not even heard of it. It's directed and stars Dan Cormier, cousin of Mike and Timu Solani and Brett Hull. Timu Solani, Brett Hull, and Mike Cormier are not related. So anyway, Timu is parodying himself hard in this one. No, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Timu Solani, one of the greatest pure goal scorers ever in the history of hockey. I used to love watching Timu Solani play. He was amazing. I believe he's Finnish. And, but no, listen, I'm a sucker for any hockey movie you want to put out there. I am not 100% for sure. But that I've heard of this, I really don't think that I have, but I'm down for any hockey movie. So I'm excited to see that. All right. With that down, guys, that's all the questions. By the way, for those of you who sent in questions to our tip link, say you sent it in like an hour or maybe 2 hours before today's show started. By that time, we had already put this document together. So if you sent in a question to our tip link 1 or 2 hours before the show started and you didn't see it answered now, it's probably going to be answered tomorrow. So just keep your eye open for that. All right, let's move on over now to the super chats that you guys have sent in. All right, we're starting off with Patrick Hamilton, who writes, I really want the Russo brothers to come back and do the new Avengers movies. They did such a great job with the previous films. One can only hope. Yeah. Again, and I know this isn't going to be the popular thing to say, but I love Joe and Anthony. They have always been very, very good to me. They've always been very, very nice to me. On like 3 different occasions, they've come into my studios to sit down. They've done some great stuff over video for me, and I think they're great. Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, 4 of the biggest, 3 of them are amongst the best comic book films ever made. They're great. I love them. But they didn't exactly have a world of success prior to Kevin Feige. And they have not exactly set the world on fire since not working with Kevin Feige. I don't think the Russos are the magic sauce. I think them working with Kevin Feige is obviously very special. But I think Kevin Feige can work. I think there's a lot of directors that Kevin Feige can work with and make something really great out of it. Then that is not to take away anything from how great the Russos are and what they've done. Absolutely not. I'm just saying that I was really hoping to see much better stuff come from them after leaving the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And listen, you know I'm a fan of them, but just because I'm a fan of somebody, I still call it like I see it. I believe they have struggled. Yeah. Now, this is a good example. See, Colin Z is saying that The Gray Man was spectacular. I thought The Gray Man was terrible. Not complete garbage. I don't want to overstress it. Like, not complete garbage, but I do not think The Gray Man was good. I don't think it was good. I'm glad you liked it. But yeah, I really didn't think, yeah. But anyway, it all depends on how we look at things. All right. Thanks for that, Patrick. Next up, Super Saiyan 13 writes, Hey, John, thanks for recommending Warrior. Just finished season 2 and loving it. One of the best opening theme tunes. It's now my ringtone. Nice. On to season 3. Guys, if you not watched Warrior, it is so good. It's on HBO. It's on Max. Now, I keep wanting to call it HBO Max. It's on Max. They've gone years in between seasons, but season 3 came out a little while ago. I haven't started watching season 3 yet, but Warrior's so good. If you get a chance to watch it, watch it. It's so, so good. I have, and the best martial arts in a TV show ever. It's like Game of Thrones level drama with the best martial arts ever in a television show. Like, it's stupid good. It's so stupid good. Let's get some sticky. Anyway, next up, we got Storm Dragon 771 writes, Monsterverse is currently beating Marvel and DC. Well, really by miles, it's not. I mean, That's just fact. All you have to do is look at the stats and the numbers. Monsterverse is not in the league of Marvel right now. Doesn't mean it can't be, but it's not even in the same league. All right. Yasmar writes, I can't believe Marvel can't sustain the most critically and financially successful run in the history of motion picture. What a bunch of losers. Yeah, I know, right? I mean, listen, with all the lamenting that I do sometimes that the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you guys know I am a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am not a hater of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People try to keep making John just hates anything Marvel. John just hates Disney. No, I am a fan. I am often more critical of things that I am a fan of than I am of the things I'm not a fan of. Be that as it may. With all the lamenting that I have done recently about like how the Marvel Cinematic Universe, while still putting out some great stuff, their overall quality has decreased. I think most people would agree with that anyway. But you also got to keep in mind that Marvel spoiled us for over a decade. No studio puts out the amount of content that Marvel did at such a high quality for so long with that much success. Nobody's ever done it in history. No studio in history has ever done it. You might make an argument for Pixar. They had a pretty good run too. But it's like a lot of people just started thinking, here's the problem. Marvel was so good at making movies that all movie fans just started to assume that making great movies must be easy. I mean, look, every time Marvel puts out a movie, it's making $1 billion. The critics love it. The audiences love it. It's a huge hit. It's massively good, all this kind of stuff. And the downside of that is that a lot of film fans started to assume that making great movies was easy. It's simple. Like, how did you screw a movie up? How bad do you have to be to make a bad... When in reality, it's a Herculean task to make a good movie. If everybody could do it, everybody would do it. It's remarkably, insanely hard to make a good movie. And eventually, they were really going to run out of steam. They were eventually going to run out of steam, and they got to reignite the fire now, man. They got to reignite it. But yeah, it's got to keep that in mind. It's a good thing. It's a good point to bring up, Yasmar. All right, next up. Oh, by the way, I should have turned off Super Chats a while ago, and I've totally forgotten to. I'm turning off Super Chats now. So if you go to put in a Super Chat and you can't see where to do it, the reason you can't do it is because I just turned it off. So there you have it. All right. We're going to keep going here. Connor Dorian writes, have you seen the official trailer that they released yesterday for the upcoming Percy Jackson TV series? I did. I like it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm gushing over. It's like, oh my gosh, this is like the best looking thing ever. But it's solid. It's really solid. The effects look like they don't cheap out. I like the story of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. So I'm looking forward to seeing this. I thought it was a good, solid little trailer. All right. John Redcord writes, I predict a massive second weekend drop for the Marvels. Well, I mean, the Marvels has a big problem in that this weekend, if I look at the release calendar, this weekend we had both Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving isn't going to do huge business, but it's going to do business. So not only were they going to have a hard time with their second weekend anyway, they've got a big high-profile movie coming out the week after, which is Hunger Games, A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And that's going to make $20, $30, $40 million at the box office too. So it's going to eat up a chunk. So I'm going to guess a 60% drop. Actually, let me ask you guys that in the live chat. I'm going to put in a little, I'm going to start a poll. Will the Marvels take a bigger drop than 60%? All right. That's the question. I just put up the poll in the live chat. So, Okay, well, that's just stupid. Fetty's saying it's going to take a 90% drop. No, I can utterly guarantee you it is not going to take a 90% drop. That I can 1,000% guarantee you that. But yeah, do you think it's going to take 60 is a big drop? 60 is a big drop. So do you think it, especially a movie that didn't open with 80 or 100? See, the bigger opening weekend, like if you have an opening weekend of $125 million, then 60% drop isn't that big of a drop, because if you had a $120 million opening weekend, that means a lot of people already saw it, right? But the Marvels did not have a huge opening weekend, had a $47 million opening weekend. So a 60% drop would be a big drop. It would be a big drop. So do you think it'll be over or under 65%? Right now, 64% of you, 125 people have voted. 64% of you are saying yes, it will take a bigger drop than 60%. 35% of you are saying no, it won't take a bigger drop. So yeah, we'll see. I'm going to make the line 60. I think it's going to be right around there. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. We will see. All right. Next up, we go to Christopher Brickner writes, my biggest concern with Venom 3 is the director Kelly Marcel. She wrote the Venom films, but hasn't directed anything before Venom 3. That concerns me. Yeah, again, I've always said that's always a big concern for me too. Let me bring this up here quickly. Venom 3 IMDb. So now, the one good thing is that she's very, very well acquainted with the property. Obviously, she's worked on the Venom films before. That's good. But as I go down, she does have, well, she's got another film in pre-production. She's got another film in pre-production called The Ferryman. But I don't know anything about that particular movie. So yeah, it's concerning. I mean, again, she's worked closely with Tom Hardy. So the relationship between director and actor is very important. Those two have worked very closely together. They actually wrote together on some things, including Venom. So they obviously have a very good, tight relationship. That's a positive. Very well versed with this franchise. That's a positive. But again, I agree. I think if you're going to direct your first thing, it should be a smaller film. So that is, I concur with you on that, Christopher. It's a little concerning, but we'll see. Well, we'll see what happens. All right. Raymond Verrata writes, let's see here. Sorry, I just got to notice I did something. I got to fix it quickly. There we go. I fixed it. Okay. Raymond Verrata writes, your arch enemy, the Golden Globes, is now on CBS. Yeah, I think I heard about that. Listen, I think the Golden Globes are a total waste of time. But that being said, they are now under new ownership, right? They've got brand new owners for the Golden Globes, and they are making some good changes. I call it like I see it. And, I give credit where credit's due. Let's see what the Golden Globes can turn into. Okay. I'm going to keep an open mind. Like, the Golden Globes have been a total waste of time. They're useless. But under new ownership and with some of the changes they're already implementing, I will be curious and open-minded to see how they evolve over the next 3-4 years. Yeah, I don't expect them to turn everything around in 1 year, but I'm going to be open-minded about where they can take this thing over the next couple of years, because maybe it could be good. We'll see. Okay. Next up, we go to Tyler Yeats, who writes, I miss the OG MCU characters. Feels like when you visit home and friends are gone and it's just unfamiliar. I still support anything they put out. Listen, Tyler, you are feeling the same way that a lot of casual movie fans who have loved the MCU are feeling. It does not feel familiar anymore. And I remember, I said it, but a lot of people said it too. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of other people, that losing Steve and Tony at the same time was a real big problem for them, because they're not just two important characters. They were the faces of the MCU. There's a reason when they did Civil War that it was Cap and Iron Man. They are the heart and the soul of the MCU. And with them gone, Hulk being relegated to family barbecues, Black Widow's gone, Hawkeye got relegated to Disney Plus. it just, no, you're right. It doesn't, I love the way you put it. It feels like you go visit home, but none of your friends are there anymore. Right? It's just, they've spent the last couple of years introducing like 15 to 20 new characters, not really getting us super attached to any of them. Like, at least with Ms. Marvel, she had her series. Now she's in a big movie. They're following up with her. It's been years since Shang-Chi came out, and we still don't know when he's going to come back. Right? Nothing in the MCU feels familiar anymore. They've spent so much time over the last number of years just expanding the MCU, expand it, where they forgot to, let's reel it in. Let's make it feel intimate again. Let's make it feel familiar to our audience. Let's make them feel like when they're coming into an MCU movie, they're coming home and their friends are there. It has been one of their problems. It has been wrong. Now, again, if they made all their movies great, it wouldn't be as big of an issue. But yeah, it just doesn't feel familiar to a lot of people anymore. All right, next up, Yeech says, still support and see anything they put out. Yeah, listen, I will go to every single Marvel thing that comes out, 100%. It's just that I really hope they start improving what it is, the stuff they're putting out. Raymond Verrado writes, Snoop Dogg recently announced that he's giving up smoking weed. Really? It's hard to imagine him without it. I commend his life choice. I mean, listen, I don't personally smoke weed. On a rare occasion here and there, I'll take a drag on like a pen or something like that. I do. But for the most part, I don't. So I don't really care. But I mean, from everything I've read, I mean, there's nothing really wrong with smoking weed. But I guess it's like anything in life. Everything in moderation, right? Oh, wait a second. Kyrie in the live chat saying, no. He's giving up smoking, not weed. Well, I mean, yeah, give up smoking cigarettes. Listen, I'm not judging anybody. But, why anybody smokes cigarettes? Why do you smoke cigarettes? I mean, you're not hurting anybody else unless you live in a house with some other people, then you are hurting them. But I mean, it's a personal choice. I'm not taking that away. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying, man, as somebody who grew up in a house with smokers, I don't understand why you would smoke. I don't get that. I don't get it. I really don't. It's I honestly, when I was dating, I had a rule. I wouldn't date girls who smoked, not because I was judging them, but because like, and maybe it's just some of the girls that I dated earlier smoked a lot. And when I would kiss them, it tasted like I was licking an ashtray. And I just made a decision for me that I wasn't going to date girls who smoke just because I didn't like the smell of it. I didn't like the taste of it. I didn't like the habit. So but not that I judged them for, that's fine. It's just that I didn't want to be around it myself. So yeah, guys, if you do smoke, many people who smoke want to quit, and it's very, very hard to quit. I understand tobacco is a very addictive thing, but time travel is this straight linear thing. It's not, and he plops out the spaghetti. It's this. And when you interrupt, I love the concept in it too. When you interrupt something, it doesn't just affect what comes after that. It also has a ripple effect backwards and affects things that happen before it as well. That's the first time I've ever seen a movie introduce something like that. Like in every movie that ever dealt with time travel, and it was quite original in that way. Any movie that introduced time travel, it was always, if you go to this point in time and affect something, it affects everything that happens after it. I've never seen a movie say, if you do something in time, it also affects the things before it. And I thought that was really fresh and interesting. And as somebody who doesn't even like time travel in movies, I thought that was really quite good. All right. Next up, we've got Wesley Cunningham, who writes 1 of 2. Someone help me out. Over the past 3 years, Pedro is cast as Joel. Everyone whines, feel better after a good promo image. Then after seeing the performance, he's seen as near irreplaceable. There is no way this same friggin' cycle is starting again, right? I really can't wait to see the pick for Johnny Storm, no matter the quality of the movies. The past couple of torches have been awesome in the role. Yeah, listen, say what you will about the past Fantastic Four outings. Chris Evans was a good Johnny Storm. Michael B. Jordan was a good Johnny Storm. The problems with those movies, and by the way, I still think Michael Chiklis was a really good pick for Ben Grimm. I really like Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm, so hate on me all you want. I really did. But I mean, those weren't the problems. But you are right. We are seeing history repeat itself because a lot of people forget now. But when they announced Pedro Pascal was going to be Joel, oh my God, the amount of fan tears. Oh my God, the Niagara Falls of tears. Go on YouTube, just look it up. All these proclamations that Last of Us is already ruined. Last of Us is going to be a disaster. Last of Us has already failed. Because they casted Pedro Pascal. That's not a very white name to play Joel. And it is almost universally agreed upon to be one of the most magnificent things on TV. And by the way, even as a genre show, nominated for the top prize at the Emmys, Best Dramatic Series. And he nominated for the top prize in television acting, the Emmy for Best Actor in a Drama. I don't know that he's going to win, but but we're seeing the same cycle. Like announce him as Reed Richards. All you got to go to be able to predict the entire lifespan of this thing. Just go back and see what happened. See it all start when he got announced as Joel for Last of Us. It's crazily, eerily, stupidly similar, unfortunately. All right. Next up, Richard Lay writes, I would say DC has the higher chance because James Gunn is building something unique and not trying to rush the universe like what WB previously did. You know, here's the thing though, and I will say this. I don't think DC rushed anything. And I get it. There are people who wanted a more gradual buildup to team ups and Justice League and all that kind of stuff. But I still stand by this. In the same way that Star Wars did not need a solo Luke movie, a solo Ben Kenobi movie, a solo Chewbacca movie, a solo Han Solo movie, a solo Princess Leia movie to build up to then bring them all together in Star Wars. They didn't need to do that. They made a great movie populated with great characters that we all just met for the first time on screen, and they made it magnificent. Greatest event in the history of movies, Star Wars. And I often bring up the whole thing about Guardians of the Galaxy on Marvel Cinematic. They didn't need to do a Peter Quill movie and a Gamora movie and a Rocket movie and a Groot movie and a Drax movie and then have them team up for Guardians of the Galaxy. No, you're able to introduce us to all of those characters, get us to love all those characters, told a kick-ass story with it, with great entertainment value, and they made it awesome. DC, too many film fans think it's about formula. It's not about formula. You can take almost any formula, and if you do it right, you can make any formula work if you do it right. But you can also take any formula you want, and if you don't do it right, it's going to fall on its face anyway. Look at what happened to Universal's Dark Universe. Remember that? They had Tom Cruise and Javier Bardem and Russell Crowe and Johnny Depp and Sofia Boutella, and they tried to do the formula, right? They tried to do the formula. Well, let's do one film first, and then the next. And guess what happened? The movie came out and it was bad, and it doesn't matter that you were following let's do a bunch of solo movies first and then have one big group up movie. Didn't matter. They did the formula that a lot of comic book films wanted, but it didn't matter because they put out a subpar project. And that's all that matters. George Miller was going to do a Justice League movie without solo films to build them up first. And I think that movie could have been great. It got killed because Christopher Nolan didn't want them to do it. Armie Hammer was going to be Batman. Remember that? But George Miller, from Mad Max fame, George Miller was going to do a Justice League movie just right from scratch. Boom, Justice League. And you know what? Didn't matter that it wasn't following the formula. I think that could have been great. Could have been great. Not that it would have been great. Who knows? We never saw it. But I think it could have been great. I think it could have been great. But we'll never know. Formula isn't the answer. The problem with DC is not that they rushed. It's that they put out subpar product. That was it. Batman versus Superman. By the way, I like Batman versus Superman. I like that movie. I like quite a bit. I enjoyed that movie. But Batman versus Superman didn't fail to live up to its potential because they had a Batman versus Superman movie come out too soon. It failed to live up to its potential because it wasn't good enough to win over the majority of the audience. If it was good enough, no problem, right? So anyway, that's just kind of the way I see it at any rate. But next up, we go to Taki75, who writes, the only thing that concerns me about Pascal is his age and the 15-year gap between him and Vanessa Kirby or Margot Robbie as Sue. Honestly, in Hollywood terms, 15 isn't that bad. For me, Pedro Pascal's age is one of the selling points of having him as Reed Richards. I like the fact that he is a grown-ass man. I love that. I love that he's closer to an age that I could buy into him being the world's smartest man rather than somebody in their 30s or something like that. So for me, it's a selling point that he's at his age. As far as age gaps go, listen, in Hollywood, we've seen couples on screen that have had like 20 plus year age gaps, right? Between the leading guy and the leading girl. Whatever. 15 doesn't bother me that much, to be honest with you. 15 doesn't bother me that much at all. Yeah. Actually, I mean, I think it's perfectly fine, to be honest. Now, it's different if you got some dude who's 55 and a girl who's 21. Okay, then I'll raise my eyebrow. Other than that, I don't think it's all that bad. All right. Next up. We got Demarius Love, who writes, just realize if Pedro is Reed, he and Namor will come to blows for Sue. Get it? Demarius. Delusional Patriots fan writes, what character could we get Martin Scorsese to get on board for? What character could we get Martin Scorsese to get on board for? For what? I don't know what we're talking about. Are you talking about comic book movies? Like what character? Well, if you're asking about comic book movies, he was one of the first. The Joker only got made because of Martin Scorsese, right? So obviously there are some characters he can get on board with, so that's fine. Canadian Springs putting in there, I think the point is some people are tired of the age gap. The thing is, a lot of times the actors have a bigger age gap than it looks like on screen. Like, I think, because Pedro could easily play, like if you say Pedro, you do his hair the right way, whatever, he could come across as 38. I mean, so the point is, I don't think it's going to come across as a huge age gap on screen. Like just because in real life, the actors have a bit of an age gap. Listen, there was literally a 31-year-old woman playing a high school student in Beverly Hills 90210. The issue isn't how old are the ages of the actors or even the age difference between the actors. The issue is, what does it come across as on screen? And if they can handle that, I don't think many people are going to have an issue with it. At least I don't think so. I could be wrong about that though. All right. Next up, Kenneth Maynor writes, I think DC has a real opportunity here. If Gunn can deliver with Superman Legacy, DC can flourish. I completely agree. But he's got to nail it with Superman Legacy, right? Let's not just skip over that. That's an important part of that equation. If he doesn't kill it with Superman Legacy, they're in a lot of trouble. Anyway, now more than ever, we need something aspirational, positive, and unifying. Superman is the right hero. 100% I agree he's the right hero to be all that, if you do him right. Then again, I thought Zack Snyder's Man of Steel was that movie. I love that Superman movie. It's my favorite Superman movie of all time. Man of Steel, the most underrated comic book film of all time. But yes, Superman is that kind of character that can be a unifying force if you do the movie right. And let's see if James Gunn actually pulls that off, Kenneth. If anybody's going to do it, it's James Gunn. The guy who had success at Marvel, the guy who had success at DC. If anybody can do it, it's going to be him. So we'll keep our fingers crossed he's able to pull that off. All right, guys, listen. We're going to take one more quick break here before we finish off with the last bunch of questions that we have, and thank one of the other sponsors of today's show and the main sponsor of the John Campea YouTube channel. They've been our main sponsor for a couple of years now, my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, the great folks over at Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at Mint Mobile for being such great partners with us over here at the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's get to the rest of your questions here, shall we? Next up, we just did Kenneth. Fangblaze71 writes, have you been watching Invincible Season 2? It's pretty good so far, and the voice actor for Optimus Prime is in it now. Oh, Peter Cullen does one of the voices? Okay, so I have not kept up. I watched episode 1 of Invincible, and I have not caught up. So how many episodes are out now, guys? 3? Is it 3 episodes that are out now, or are they still on 2? I can't remember, but the only thing that turned me off, there are 3 episodes right now, says Patrick. There's only one thing that turned me off a little bit about the first episode, which was they basically stole the storyline from Superman and Lois, right? And I don't care if it was in the comic book already. I mean, Superman and Lois put this story on screen just within the last 2 years. Of, in another reality, the superhero, in one case Superman, was actually bad and hurt lots of people, and somebody from that universe is now over here, and now they want to get revenge on this universe's version of the superhero, even if they're a good guy in this superhero. Like, they did that in Superman and Lois. So, but other than that, I still really liked it. I mean, I love Invincible. I think it's a really good show. I don't put it on the same level as Arcane. I don't put it on the same level as The Boys or anything like that, but I think it's really good and I enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to getting caught up on it. All right. Next up, we've got Carl Jr. who writes, chances they announce the Fantastic Four casting at CCXP this year or before the year's end. Oh, I truly believe we are going to get the full cast announcement before Christmas. I really think so. Nobody's telling me that. Just, I'm just speculating as a fan, just like everybody else. But I honestly think we're going to get the full announcement before, because remember, the director said they've already cast the movie. Like they cast the movie a long time ago. They're only going to be able to keep it under wraps for so long. So I think by Christmas, whether it's at CCXP or whether they just drop an announcement online, I think we're going to get it before Christmas. Again, don't bet on that. Nobody's told me that. This is no insider sources I have. This is just me speculating as a fan. All right. Next up, Fangblaze71 writes, the audience score for the Marvels has been pretty good. Why do you think so little people saw it week 1? And could it have big legs with good word? I don't think here's the thing. Even as somebody who liked the Marvels, I liked it. Like in a purely thumbs up or thumbs down world, I'm a thumbs up, but mildly. I just don't think the movie was good enough to energize a fan base to really be ravenous for it and come back out for repeat viewings in big numbers and dragging other people along with them. I just don't think the Marvels was good enough to do that. I have been saying for months, you guys who have watched the show have gotten sick of me saying it, but I have said it for months. that there are several big box office challenges that the Marvels was facing. Number one, the state of the MCU is not as exciting to people anymore. Number two, you couldn't get any of the cast or crew, and we've learned that it has been way more important than we used to think, including me, that it's important that the cast be able to get out there and promote the film. They have been able to do that. And number three, unlike, say, a Guardians of the Galaxy, where audiences were looking at all brand new characters, but they knew they were brand new characters, so they weren't behind, that they could go and watch Guardians of the Galaxy and they're not behind because it's the first time for everybody. A lot of people were looking at ads for the Marvels. It's like, I don't know who most of those characters are, but apparently they've been around for a while. Like I told you the story, I ran into one of our viewers, Chef Rigo. Chef Rigo, at my gym. And even he just came up to me, and he watches my show all the time. And he came up to me and says, am I going to be lost? Like, me and my girlfriend are talking about, we'd be interested in going to see the Marvels, but I feel like I'm going to be lost if I go because I haven't watched Ms. Marvel. And most people don't have Disney Plus. So they don't have no idea who Monica is. They have no idea who Kamala is, but they could tell that other people do, that they've been around. It's like, and they already feel like they're going to be behind. And you start adding all those things up. Well, you better be one hell of a great movie to overcome that. And while I liked the Marvels, in my opinion, it's not one hell of a great movie. It's not good enough to get those types of legs that Elemental had, right? Elemental's a better movie. And so Elemental was able to generate those types of legs, but I don't think that's going to be there for the Marvels. I really don't. This is going to be a money-losing movie. So, but hey, stranger things have happened, man. Stranger things have happened. All right. Next up, we move on to another one from Fangblaze. It says, Natalie Holt's score for the Loki show was honestly just incredible, especially that ending scene of the finale. One of the best MCU scores, in my opinion. I thought it was quite good, Fangblaze. I'll be honest with you, I don't rank it up among the best of the MCU, but it was quite good. It fit the scenes very well, particularly that last scene as Loki's pushing against the time stream and all that kind of stuff. It was quite good. It worked well for it. You know, it used to be that the one thing that DC films did better on a regular basis than the Marvel films was the score. The score of most DC movies, not all of them, but most DC movies were better and higher quality than Marvel ones were. Not that Marvel was terrible by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that they were constantly better. But the last number of years, while the overall quality of the MCU's kind of declined, I found their score game has picked up. I think their scores in a lot of their movies and projects and TV shows have gotten better. So there's that. All right. Next up, Devin Lida writes, Solo was released at an odd time for Star Wars movies, given the mainline trilogy and Rogue One were all released in December. Oh, I agree. I mean, listen, there was a lot of things, many things led to the underperformance of Solo. Absolutely. And that is certainly one of them. However, it does not account for the financial shortcomings of Solo. Just releasing at an odd time does not take what would be a $900 million movie and reduce it to what? I think it was in the $300 million. Hold on a second. Solo, a Star Wars story, box office. I think it made 300 and something million. How much it made? $392 million. It made one Black Adam. The odd releasing time won't turn an $800 or a $900 million movie into a $390 million movie, right? It was a number of factors that went into it. And yeah, it just did not perform. Didn't perform. All right. The one Star Wars movie that just really lost money. Let's be honest. It lost money. Raf Todorov writes, Hey, John, have you heard about the Cyberpunk 2077 live action adaptation being made by Anonymous Content, the company that worked on The True Detective, etc.? I have not heard about that. Is that actually legit? Wouldn't that take a massive budget to do a Cyberpunk 2077? Guys in the live chat, have you heard about this? Is this legit? Is somebody going to try to make a live action Cyberpunk 2077? Because, I mean, to me, it seems odd. Michael Gonzalez says, I've heard of it. Iceness is saying yes. Yeah, I've not heard of this. That seems weird because that seems like it would be a remarkably expensive project to do. But yeah, everybody in the live chat is saying yes. So no, I haven't heard of it, but I will keep my eyes open for it. Ralph, thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. All right. Next up, Fangblaze71 writes, how many more Spider-Man movies do you think Tom Holland will do? I'm hoping he gets to complete another trilogy. I see that. I see another 3. That'll probably give him another 6 to 7 years. I could see them doing another 3 over the next 6 or 7 years. One movie every 2.5 years. I could see that. And then probably at that point, he'll be looking to move on and maybe it'll be time for another Spider-Man. But maybe after another 6 or 7 years, they could then be in a position that they could transition into Miles Morales as a live action Spider-Man. I still think they're a little ways away from that, but I could see him doing another 3, maybe even more. All right, next up, Carl Wagner writes, what's your number one film from 2011, 2012? Nope, not going to answer that question. Because I couldn't tell you what movie off the top of my head came out in 2011. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what movie came out in 2012. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what movie came out in 2013. I don't walk around with a movie calendar in my head. I'm not good with movie dates. I'm not Scott Mantz. So I would have to sit down and actually do research and find all the dates and which movies came out in which years and that. So unfortunately, I'm not dodging your question. I just can't answer it because I couldn't tell you one movie off the top of my head that came out in 2012. I just don't know, let alone what my favorite movie that year was, unfortunately, Carl. But thank you for asking, man. All right, Fangblaze71 writes, what movie this year do you think had the best visual effects? So far, my top 2 are The Creator and Guardians 3. The Creator was remarkable for its budget, but I don't think it had the best visual effects of the year. I think they were very good considering the budget. Let me bring up Box Office Mojo here for a second and just look at the year so far. So if I go to yearly 2023, okay, so I'm not going to say Barbie, Super Mario's animated, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is animated, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has got to be right up there. I thought Little Mermaid had remarkably good visual effects. I really did like the underwater effects. I loved it. Avatar: The Way of Water, there it is. End of discussion. It's over. Avatar: The Way of Water. Oh, no. That came out in 2022. Avatar: The Way of Water came out in 2022, so that does not count. Transformers Rise of the Beast had some very good visual effects. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated. Dungeons and Dragons had some pretty fun effects, but that was meant to be fun, like not super hardcore. Great. Man, I think I'm going to have to go with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yeah, I think Guardians of the Galaxy 3 probably had the best visual effects of the year. All right, so far. YT writes, do you think the X-Men is better than the Avengers? Well, in cartoons, in comic books, in the movies, you got to be a little bit more specific. In comic books, X-Men are better, I think. In cartoons, I think the X-Men have been better. In live action, Avengers has been better. So yeah, there. But if you meant it in some other way, you'd have to be a little bit more specific. All right, Fangblaze71 writes, Hulk wasn't the only character that got ruined after Endgame. Nick Fury was too. Seeing him in Secret Invasion and the Marvels was just sad. I disagree. I had zero issue with Nick Fury in either one of those. I think a hardened, battle-weary, tired Nick Fury was an interesting approach. Just didn't work. But he was still the man. Nick Fury has always been the man behind the curtain. He's been very much in front of the curtain. I get it. But that's what Nick Fury is. He's the man behind the curtain. He's the man who made things happen. And I don't think that was negated at all by Secret. I didn't like Secret Invasion. I think Secret Invasion overall was a show that didn't work. But I don't think the problem was Nick Fury. Remember, this is still a guy who's dealing with the fact that he got blipped. He got snapped. And like a lot of that. Now, when you remember that the Marvels was supposed to come out before Secret Invasion, you had a very different Nick Fury there, right? I didn't mind Nick Fury. I look, with all the problems that I had with the Marvels, Nick Fury wasn't one of the problems to me. He was still the man that made everything happen. Everybody follows him. Everybody follows his orders. Like, even if you're one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy in Captain Marvel, Nick Fury calls the shots. And yeah, with all the problems that I had with the Marvels, Nick Fury for me wasn't one of them, but that's just me. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Frank Blaze. Next up, we got Alex Von Gollum, who writes, "Hey, John, I'm going to do an experiment and watch the new Hunger Games flick with only knowing the gist of the franchise and the brand's whistle." Right. I think you'll be perfectly fine. Because this is a prequel, so you're really not going to be lost at all. And I think it will, I didn't like the movie overall, but it does a good enough job explaining the world and you'll get the gist of it. And I think you'll be fine watching this movie, even if you hadn't watched the other ones. All right. Next up, Alex also writes, "Also, Tuesday is game day. Going to go watch Napoleon. Nice. There's an extended official clip of the snow fight. It's awesome. Haven't been this crazy excited for a movie in a long time." Listen, they showed us at CinemaCon back in April, and I can't remember what the name of the battle is, but the battle that happens on the frozen lake in the snow. Any of you guys in the live chat who know the actual name of the battle, I'd be grateful if you were able to put that in, write that in. But I was floored by that scene. Absolutely floored by it. Unfortunately, the critics don't seem to be loving it. I mean, it looks like the Rotten Tomato score has gone up. The last I checked, Napoleon was at 62. As of right now, it looks like it's at 67. So it's actually gone up 5%. Maybe it'll get into the 70% range. Who knows? So I'm a little underwhelmed by the score. I was hoping it would be better. I was hoping it would be bigger, but it's going up. So look, I'm still excited to see it. I'm still very, very excited to see it. Them showing us the whole scene and everything at CinemaCon has had me completely on board and excited for it ever since. So we'll see how it finally turns out. All right. Next up, Kevin Frazier writes, "John, your live recall and instant recollection verges on photographic memory. You're good. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night." That is a callback, of course, a little bit earlier in today's show. Somebody mentioned, it's like, man, does anybody forget the names of things as much as John does? To which it's true. That happens a lot. But again, I challenge anybody to do what I do. Be live on camera. Today it'll be 3.5 hours that I've been live on camera, talking about 40, 50, 60 different topics, all off the top of my head, live, not pre-recorded where I could edit it out. And let's see other people do better. Because I think when you're like, I'm thinking, for instance, like a little bit early, Hala, we're just talking about a whole bunch of comic book stuff. Somebody mentions Hala and I'm thinking Valhalla, right? It's a similar thing. It happens. I wouldn't say that I have a photographic memory though, but I think I do better than most people would in being able to pull up the names of actors and movies and references from different decades and stuff like that. I think I do better than most, certainly not better than everybody. Scott Mance is like, Scott is so good at remember. Rob's also very good at remember specific names, dates, everything like that. But I mean, I don't think there's a lot of people who could pull that up as quickly as I do. There are certainly some though. There are certainly some, but I do all right. Okay. Dr. Stinky writes, "I'm a member, but can't type in chat." I'm pretty sure you probably can't. I don't think you'd be able to send in a super chat. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to send in a super chat if you couldn't send in chat. So, I don't know what to answer that is. Cause if for whatever reason, if YouTube had you blocked in regular chat, you would not be able to send in a super chat. So, but I'll look into that. Anyway, next up, Devin writes, "On the issue of Rach and Zegler, critics just need to relax anuses and shoulders." It's not even critics. It's not even critics. So let's not pretends more. Dr. Stinky sends in another super chat just to be supportive. Thank you, Dr. Stinky. Bobby Jackson writes, I read that the Supergirl writer had wrote a Supergirl script already based on one from Flash, and that's why Gunn rehired her for this new one. Maybe, but again, this is a girl who has, like, for instance, I'm sure she's written scripts that have never been picked up and produced. But that's a significant thing, right? This is a girl, an individual who is, it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a girl. It's an individual who has never written something that's been produced, either in television or in feature films. All they've got is a short film. I've got a short film. That means nothing. So again, but it's about, do I trust James Gunn? And I do. So I'm concerned, but I'm not panicking. Concerned, but not panicking. Anyway, let's see. Next up, Writer Boy writes, dropping in to say hello. Not sure where we are topic wise, but having fun, currently levitating. Well, thank you so much, Writer Boy, for sharing that. It's good to have you here, man. And our final one today is just Gary Phillips, who just sends in a super chat to be supportive. And guys, that'll do it for today's 2-hour installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here, guys, and making the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all of you guys who sent in questions, whether you use the tip link or super chat, number one, because you gave us fun, interesting things to talk about. But number two, you support our channel by doing it. And all of us involved at the channel, thank you guys so very much for your support. Guys, have a wonderful weekend. We will, of course, be back on Monday. It'll be, I think the lineup this week is me. On Monday is me, Rob, and the guys will be here, of course. Also, for those of you who are American, some people have been asking me, what is going to be the show's schedule for the holidays? I'm not American, so I'm still going to do a show on Thanksgiving on Thursday. I'm going to give my American staff, I'm going to give them the day off. So it'll just be you and me, much like this. I'll be doing the show from in here. So yeah, Thursday, Thanksgiving, before your family comes over and invades your house or whatever, we'll be doing a live stream, a regular John Campea Show podcast on Thursday. So we will see you there. Yeah, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here today, guys. I have a lot of fun doing these afternoon shows with you guys, so it's good to have you here. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.